As I mentioned in my opening, we had over 100 papers that have been submitted, and you're going to have a chance to see more of that material than what we featured at our conferences in the history of time. And as well, we're really cognizant of the importance of networking time, so we're going to have a good mix of both of those things. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these 10-minute main stage presentations, and that may not seem like enough time to get everything communicated, but we'll have ample networking time, so then you can find the people that made those presentations and learn more about it, and that's equally important, if not more so. And then we're going to have 20-minute concurrent presentations in the other rooms, and the point of those is really, all of these presentations, is to really focus on key takeaways for you to bring back to your businesses, so that when you go back to your offices on Wednesday morning and somebody says, hey, what'd you do at the conference? You've got some clear takeaways and a few new solutions that you can take back to your desk to really make a difference. So each of these narrated sessions is led by an industry thought leader that's exemplifying the kind of leadership and new skills that I spoke of a few minutes ago. And to kick off the first section of groundbreaking research on programmatic buying, as well as the rest of the morning, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to and welcome Kate Serkin, who's the EVP of Research at Starcom MediaVest Group. Kate, I love this. It's straight out of her bio. Kate oversees a massive worldwide budget. Who doesn't want to say that? And manages emerging media trends, data, and support for clients. She's a founding board member of MASB, which is the Marketing Accountability Standards Board. She's a wonderful ARF board member and a member of the executive committee. She also is a member of the executive board for SIM and the Print Digital Research Forum. And if you're wondering what she does in her spare time, you can find her jetting around the world. She tweets avidly, and she's a thought leader. And so please take a minute to welcome Kate warmly to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Gail, and thanks, Bob and Brad, for that interesting introduction to the morning and the changes that the ARF has brought to us with this conference today. A focus on data, technology, convergence, and as we move to the richer part of this morning's theme into programmatic. We're going to hear from two research teams who have invested a lot of time and effort in this topic, trying to improve the analytics on site perceptions and advertising effectiveness, and using digital footprints to further classify audiences in the digital world. Both of them seek to add richer texture to today's programmatic buys by understanding more about the context of the site and the context of the audience. We can use this information to optimize the content that we place on those sites and the content that we start to develop over time to continue the campaign. They both bring a richer set of art to the science of programmatic, albeit in a very rich quantitative way, and have data to demonstrate how that works. I think you'll find both papers very useful and interesting. I can totally find the affinity with the destination versus wandering part of some of the sites in the Millward Brown study. And I know how important it is to connect that right message and content to targets as they go through the path to purchase, particularly in the technology sector, and how to understand those new behaviors in all screens. We know some of that's a little elusive in many markets around the world. So please welcome to the stage Hannah and Joline from Millward Brown, who will present the first paper.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to the ARF for having us here today. My name is Joline McGoldrick, and along with my colleague Hannah Pavalow, we'll be talking to you today about how to evaluate site impact and what we think is the missing piece. So programmatic buying is quick and it's easy. It's easy to find quickly the targets you want, and there are great benefits from reach. But we think that it is missing a piece to it, and the piece that we think it's missing is place. Place matters, and this is rooted not just in the thousands of studies that we see, but also it's validated by advertising research, and it really rests in theories of psychology known as priming. Priming means that the first stimulus you see will affect your response to the second and subsequent stimuli. And rather than turn the 8 or 9 minutes we have into a lecture on psychology, I want to show you priming gone wrong so that you can grasp why it is exactly that priming matters. And I'm going to show you some examples in the context of advertising. So this is the first ad, and I'd say that the image quality on these is really low because these are our audiences telling us, wow, these examples are so bad, I'm going to take a picture of them on my cell phone and post it somewhere. So the first is an ad for Skyfall. Your attention might be drawn to the gun in that picture pointing at something. So what is it pointing to? Another advertisement. What's that other advertisement? It's for Lincoln. Not really great placement, right? Let's take a look at another one. This one, childhood obesity, don't take it lightly. That seems good. What should come next? Probably not an ad for McDonald's, my kind of shopping spray. Let's look at one more example, just in case for those of us in digital, we think this is not something that relates to us. It is. And I can make this joke because I have hearing issues. Deaf.com, it's a site for people who are hearing impaired. What's the one message you probably don't want to have on the bottom of Deaf.com? Can you hear me now? I don't know if Verizon knows about this. So you can see from these examples that clearly place does matter. There is a role for place in all of this. And we knew this intuitively. And planners, they know this intuitively also. But we wanted to quantify this. So we ran what we call this publisher impact study. And what we're looking at here is we're really interested in understanding what is the difference between programmatic and premium sites, and what are those qualities of premium sites and sites that influence audiences' receptivity to advertising. So we're going to talk about what those dimensions are, and we're looking at that across 5 site categories, across news, finance, sports, food, and portals. And we're going to pull from 3 data sources. We're going to pull from behavioral data, unique visitors, page views, average stay, visits per person, attention, and pages per visit. And we pulled this from our partnership with our Compete panel over a 1-month period of time. We're looking at attitudinal data, so our standard brand effectiveness KPIs, online advertising awareness, brand awareness, message association, brand favorability, and purchase intent. We aggregated this across 1,462 studies. And finally, we conducted a survey to hear from audiences about their impressions of advertising and their receptivity to it. And the survey we conducted over 4,395 respondents, and we were asking them about their impressions of site brands, their feeling towards the sites, their reasons for visiting sites, and the impressions of advertising on the sites. So to tell you more about what are those 6 qualities or 6 dimensions of sites that matter, I'm going to pass it over to Hannah.
So after doing our analysis, we came up with 6 different dimensions that help to describe sites' brands as well as those site experiences. So those dimensions are the meaningfully different, personality, site pedigree, visit catalyst, everyday relevance, and touch point dimensions. So for each of these, I'm going to tell you about some of the things that went into them, as well as some of the insights that we saw. The meaningfully different dimension is about brand, and there's 3 main metrics to how we can define a site's brand. So one, is it meaningful? Do people feel an affinity towards it? Is it different? Can they differentiate it from its competitors? And is it salient? So how top of mind is that site? And while these variables can tell us about how strong a site's brand is, other variables can tell us why. So do people trust the sites? Are they willing to share the content from that site? This dimension not only tells us how strong the site's brand is, it also tells us how important that is. So we see that sites that index high on this dimension correlate with higher scores in how much people trust the advertising on that site, how much they like it, how well they think it fits with those sites, as well as how useful they actually find that advertising. The personality dimension is about how people personify the sites that they visit. So on one hand, we had news and finance sites, which were seen as assertive and wise. And on the other side, we saw sports and food sites, which were seen as more fun and friendly. And while this dimension didn't correlate to higher ad outcomes, it's important to understand so that you can match the personality of the brands that are being advertised with the sites that they're being advertised on. This helps in order to avoid causing a jarring user experience. So site pedigree refers to how people view sites as fitting into a larger media ecosystem. So sites that index high on this dimension were independent sites, things that people saw as more rebellious and adventurous, while sites that index lower on this dimension were seen to be as part of a larger media property. So this dimension actually also correlated with high online ad awareness for those sites that were seen as part of bigger institutions. That's likely because if you're loyal to a particular media property, you're going to be exposed to the offline channel as well as the online channel. So brand campaigns that are happening across multiple places are going to make people more sensitive to seeing that brand later when they're online. The next dimension is the visit catalyst dimension, and this is about how people actually get to the sites that they're going to. So on one side, we see people are typing URLs directly into the browser, and on the other side, we're seeing people who are actually doing searches. So one thing we saw was all food sites indexed very low on this dimension, likely because people are starting out with a search for an ingredient or a recipe, and then clicking on lots of links until they find something that they're actually interested in. We saw that these sites that index lower on this dimension actually correlated with higher ad trust, possibly because of the implicit social recommendation that comes when you find a site via a search engine. The everyday relevance dimension is about how a site fits into a user's routine. So is it a place that they're going to every single day or somewhere where they go less frequently? Sites that index high on this dimension performed really well in behavioral metrics, such as unique visits and visits per person, but also drove people there to do high engagement activities like interact with friends and play games. Out of all the 5 content categories, portals outperformed along this dimension. We also saw that that correlated to a higher score in online ad awareness, likely because if you have a homepage takeover on a portal, you're going to have people being exposed to that homepage takeover multiple times in a single day, making them more likely to be aware of that advertising. And the last dimension is the touchpoint dimension. So this speaks to what visits actually look like on those sites. So sites in index high on this dimension had more time spent. People consumed more content while they were there, while sites that were indexing lower had less time spent and were often had visitors being driven there by social networks. So one reason for this is when you're on a social network and you see a link that you want to click on, you're there to consume that specific piece of content. But once you've consumed it, you're likely to go back to your social network. It's really important for sites that are indexing lower on this dimension to understand that because they may want to consider using more high-impact creative units in order to break through to the viewer. So while programmatic audience-based buying has given us increased reach and efficiency, it does ignore the question of place and what that impact is. This study has looked and created 6 different dimensions for us to actually measure and quantifiably define what the impact of a site's brand is and that site experience on the advertising experience. And what we've shared with you today is just a brief section of the publisher impact study that we conducted. If you're interested in reading more or want to find out more about it, you can reach out to us at the email there and we can send it to you. And we're also now offering a publisher impact solution, which helps sites to identify where they fit along those 6 different dimensions, helping premium publishers be able to quantifiably differentiate themselves for the first time. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for staying perfectly within time as well. It's a good start to the morning. Our next presentation is going to look at digital footprints. I think as well as using data in the footprint for things like attribution analysis, there's a great opportunity to start to use it to refine the content that we share with consumers. This presentation was based on some data from the Netherlands, and we're going to have Roos Voorend present it. She was ably assisted by Jozefien Karskens, but Roos is going to do the presentation today. Welcome to the stage.
So, thank you. Oh, it's really great to be here today and standing in front of all these people. I came here together with Jozefien, who's sitting right over there, and we came all the way from Amsterdam to do this presentation. And you might know Amsterdam. We have our many, many bikes on the streets. We are allowed to smoke grass on the streets. We have great football players, and we also have great technology. And I'm really proud to be here today and talk to you about this great technology from Amsterdam. So I'm a researcher at the startup Koopa, and we make software that tracks people's online behavior. And I came here today to talk to you about how you can improve the effectiveness of your online advertisement campaign. But before I do that, I want to show you this. You see, there's a baby watching an advertisement of a car, but he doesn't know to drive a car. He doesn't even have his driver's license. You may have invested a lot of time and effort in creating your advertisement campaign, But it all goes to waste when it is shown to the wrong audience. And this example may seem exaggerated, but this is what happens in reality. The current situation is that brands and advertisers use 3 types of media to relate to the consumers: owned, paid, and earned media. And these media are monitored separately. But how do you know the effects of your efforts? The best way to measure the effects of your efforts is on the devices of the consumers. And that is what we do. Unlike our competitors, Koopa actively engages with the participants to collect their digital footprints. So we go to our participants and we ask, hey, can I measure your online behavior? And they say yes, and they sign a user agreement, and then we give them some money or some vouchers in return. We measure their online behavior single source on desktop, smartphone, and tablets. And we measure their web behavior, but also which apps they are using, what they are searching for online, and also to which ads they are exposed. So on the one hand, we know what our participants do online, but we also know exactly who our participants are. We know their gender, their age, and also even if they intend to buy a car in the near future. So we have all this detailed information about these participants. And we do all kinds of stuff with it, such as customer journey analysis, mobile web ratings, long-time ad effects analyses. So we're a technology company, we're white labeled, and we have clients all over the world. We're not in advertising ourselves directly. We cannot go to our participants and show them advertisements directly. That would be unethical. But we can use our data to create intelligence that we can apply to advertising. So first thing we did, we put our participants in boxes. To do that, we use a consumer segmentation model that consists of 4 motivational clusters that are each labeled with a color. Red people are creative, innovative, and they like to express themselves. They are the first ones to try out new services and products. Blue people are ambitious, successful, and taking control. And yellow people are like the Karskens sisters. They are social, helpful, and always interested in others. And green people are traditional and they value privacy. Each of these 4 clusters fits into the socio-psychological graph. The horizontal axis indicates how a person relates to the social environment and ranges from independence to belonging. And the vertical axis indicates how a person behaves in the social environment and ranges from extrovert to introvert. And this graph also shows a typical product life cycle that starts at the innovators, the red people, and then goes through the blue people, the yellow, and finally the green people. And once the majority of the people that is using your product is green, you know it's at the end of its life cycle. So this is what we did first. We labeled our participants. We put them in boxes to determine their consumer profile. We then looked at our digital footprints that we measured with the passive measurement technology of Koopa. So we have their consumer profiles and we have the digital footprints, and we combine this information to create an algorithm that uses someone's digital footprints to predict their socio-psychological profile, their consumer profile. And I can already tell you that we increased the number of correct predictions with 37%. So we have our algorithm, and we apply this to real-time bidding. So for example, when you want to sell your Google Glass online, would you show your advertisement to green people? No, of course you wouldn't, because green people are traditional and they are not going to buy your Google Glass. You only want to show your advertisement to the red people, to the early adapters. So we apply our algorithm in real-time bidding, and as you all know, in real-time bidding, advertisements are sold by the impressions, and the price of each impression is determined by the parameters that is stored on a cookie. And this cookie contains information on someone's digital footprint. And we use this information as an input for our algorithm to predict whether someone is red, blue, yellow, and green. So you can now target your specific audience and increase the effectiveness of your online advertisement campaign. So we're now currently testing and implementing the algorithms, but we already know that it works because we saw in previous examples that the application of a segmentation model increases the click-through rate. So to summarize, our technology measures rich digital footprints of real people, and we use this information to create an algorithm that uses someone's digital footprint to predict their consumer profile. And we apply this to real-time bidding, where we use the information that is stored on a cookie to predict whether someone is red, blue, yellow, or green. So you can target your specific audience and increase the effectiveness of your online advertisement campaign. So let me tell you now what our next steps are. So as I already told you, we're now implementing and testing the algorithms. Media Brands is a large media agency that operates worldwide, and their real-time bidding department in the Netherlands is now implementing and testing the algorithms for us. And we're really excited about that, and we have high expectations for the results. So when this turns out to be successful, we would like to apply this to other countries as well, and to mobile advertising. So as I already told you, I came here with Jozefien, and we did this experiment together. And Jozefien is actually doing her graduation on this topic this summer. So we're both really excited about this experiment. And if you have some questions, or when you're interested, we would love to talk more about it with you. Thank you.